Our society has countless images, ideas, and stereotypes about change agents. People who help an organization transform by improving business process and interpersonal interactions. Whether influencing fashion, business, art, entertainment, science, politics, or law, these change agents have and continue to positively impact today's society on so many levels. And today, we are proud to share the story of these business owners, coaches, innovators, and thought leaders from various industries who are eager to educate, inspire, and motivate you. This is Our Voices on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC.
Welcome to Our Voices. This is powered by Nassau Community College Foundation. My name is Natasha Nurse. I'm the owner and co-founder of Dressing Room 8, co-host of Woke and Free, and the lifestyle editor of Plus Model magazine. And this show is focused on highlighting the amazing work of powerful change agents who have a great message to share with the world. And today, I'm really excited to be sharing my own message and really some of the kind of takeaways that I've learned from all of the different content creators, change agents that have come onto Our Voices here on 90.3 WHPC. And so with that, what is my story? I would say it really comes down to a couple of things. First, opportunity. Second, timing. And then thirdly, unhappiness. So we spend most of the time during our day doing what? Working. And I always grew up wanting to be passionate, be excited, be present, and conscientious about the career that I embarked upon. However, I made the mistake that so many other people do, and they listen to other people. They take guidance from others who supposedly know what's best, and they're trying to fulfill expectations, but they're forgetting the number one thing, which is, are you doing what you set out to do in this world? Are you making the decisions that's going to make you ultimately happy in the rest of your life? And so my journey, if we're going to go all the way back, takes me all the way back to Penn State, where I was studying to be a veterinarian. Because why? All my life, I loved animals. And I said, oh, well, yes, I'll be a vet. Little did I know, I very much preferred playing with puppies and kitties, not cutting them open and dissecting them. So I pivoted and I changed gears. I started taking business and law classes, which then led me to the idea of, oh, well, I'll be a lawyer. I'll go to law school, right? Because being a lawyer is supposedly important, right? And it's very significant. And I had other lawyers in my family. But guess what happened, guys? The economy recession happened in 2008 when I started my journey at New York Law School. And that was quite a doozy to handle. And I think, again, the universe was trying to give me signs, and I don't know if I was fully listening or if I was ready to hear the message, but I'm scrappy. I'm Jamaican. I took it with stride and I pivoted and I made my way down various couple of ways. I got into sales, got into some legal recruiting, ended up in a legal education sales role, where then in December of 2015, the company I was with had a reduction. And there we go again. Time to pivot. But finally, I made the decision to what? Take control of what I was going to do instead of just responding to what was happening to me in my career. And that's what led me down to the path of being an entrepreneur, of being a media personality, and a content creator. So again, I tell you all of this because it took me a couple of years to kind of figure out what was all of that pivoting and all of these changes that I needed to do to ultimately result in my own happiness. Was me just sitting down with myself, me, myself, and I, and saying, okay, Natasha, what do you want? What would make you happy? And for me, the most happiness I could achieve in a career would be from something that's dedicated to women or women empowerment, something that's dedicated to me having unlimited, unfettered content creation abilities and the opportunity to connect with people either through a blog, through video content, through public speaking, through 90.3 WHPC, right? So it was an interesting journey. It was definitely not the most direct journey, but it was the journey that I needed to go on. And what I've learned most importantly out of everything is the fact that if you are in tune with yourself, if you check in with you and you learn from what's going on in the market for whatever markets you're interested in, you can start to figure out where you can see yourself. But again, you are the master of your fate. So you've got to create this image in your mind for what you want. And then you can go out in the world and you can start executing, right? And so with that, since I've shared my origin story of Dressing Roommate and how I came to be, and I would say the media opportunities, just so people are like, well, how did you end up being a radio personality, right? I think for me, in addition to going out and kind of creating opportunities for myself, I've also been really good at taking time to leverage and build relationships. And I would say networking has been something that has led not only to me being able to have my own radio show, but become a podcaster, become a magazine editor, but every opportunity, every career that I've had, every job opportunity I've had, really, I would say stemmed from conversations I was having. So for me, I would say my journey was definitely greatly impacted by that. So I encourage you, if you are thinking about changes in your career, if you want to develop more as a content creator, how can you leverage networking? How can you leverage relationship building to really make that happen? So with that, let's kind of get down to some nitty-gritty practical advice that I've learned from all the interviews that I've not only had here on Our Voices, but all of the interviews that I do for Dressing Roommate, for Plus Model Magazine, for Woke and Free, all the different platforms that I'm a part of. So I would say purpose is really something that is really, really important. Now, I've spoken to various people who've told me, I totally knew I wanted to do XYZ. And then I've also spoken to people who said, I didn't have a clue that I wanted to do XYZ, right? So depending upon where you're going to land, it's totally fine if you know or if you stumble upon your purpose. But ultimately, you have to have purpose, right? So how do you come up with that? It's going to really derive from what do you like? What are you good at? What are you interested in? And what are you able to like perfect and or work at, right? Because everything we do, it's a work in progress. So I would say when thinking about your purpose and what you want, what are you willing to do in this world that you're willing to dedicate time, energy, blood, sweat, and tears? Because that's really what it's going to take. Purpose. All right. And then next, I would say always, I think what I've heard in various interviews is that people like to really stick to like clarity, like being clear on how they're going to move forward with their purpose, right? Because it's great to have an idea. It's great to have a dream. But if you're not clear on how you're going to get your message out, then are people going to really hear it, right? So we have to get clear on the distribution of this purpose that we've set out for ourselves. You are listening to Our Voices on the Voice of Nassau Community College 90.3 WHPC. My name is Natasha Nurse. I'm the owner and co-founder of Dressing Roommate, co-host of Woke and Free, and the lifestyle editor of Plus Model Magazine. And today I'm talking all about how to share your message with the world. So we talked about purpose, guys. We talked about clarity. Next, I would say strategy has been really interesting. So again, there's not one way to succeed. There's not one way to share your message with the world. An effective way to share your message with the world would come with strategy. But guys, I have spoken to various people who've also told me that was something that wasn't even in the forefront of their mind. But for more, I would say 90% of folk that I speak to, I would say that they are really focusing on strategy. So, there are always going to be misnomers and kind of exceptions to the rule, but I think that strategy and not just how you distribute your content and how you develop the message you want to share with the world, but in what way, in what frequency, in what channels, right? And how are you leveraging media, press, networking, strategy? You have to have strategy in every component. So we have strategy with social media. We have strategy with networking. We have strategy with how you develop your own voice, right? Because how you begin a journey is definitely very much different from how you are on the tail end of it, right? So you yourself, your messaging will change. It will grow. It will get more solidified as you experience more things in this world. But keeping it all together. So just recapping: clarity, purpose, strategy. And then also, I think what's really important to think about, and this is going to really play to your strengths, is going to be what's the best platforms for you to share your message. So for me, I would say I have really enjoyed things that allow me to verbalize my message. I have spent quite a bit of time working on how do I communicate and the type of communicator I am. So video content and radio and podcasting are methods that I've used to share my message with the world. But there are other people who they're all about the blog, right? And blogging and writing, that's really their strong suit. That's where they're able to not only share their message, but they're able to activate people in what they're reading. So you really want to think about the platforms of choice that really resonate best with the type of message that you're trying to get out to the world. And then also thinking about how are you distinguishing yourself? I think that that's really key, right? Because every single one of us, we all have really unique narratives. We're all walking, talking unicorns in a sense, right? But what exactly is going to make people tune into you, right? Because this conversation is focused on how to share your message with the world. So you really want to think about not just like, for example, we'll just say, okay, say you're a person, a woman in an all-male working environment, right? Are you the only woman in that type of environment? No, there are other situations where there's one woman executive and she's surrounded by male executives. So why would people want to tune into her content? What exactly is distinctive about her message? So that's what you really want to think about. How are you distinguishing? So are you going to say, or are you going to distinguish your message with being a woman, and then maybe you add the race narrative to it. Maybe you add the location for where you live. Maybe you add a certain type of part of your personality or something that is unique to you, and or is adding that unique differentiator for your message that you're trying to share with the world. So thinking about what is my unique voice and how am I going to get that out? And then, guys, I've hammered in networking. I don't know how many more times I can say it, but I urge people to really not sleep on this, because it's something that I hear very often and it breaks my heart every single time. Networking is super important. I have a phrase I like to say, which is your net worth is your network. The people around you, and I'm not just talking about family and friends, but really I'm talking about those business contacts. I'm really talking about people who encourage, motivate, and inspire you to go and get out and be the best version of you for the world. Who are those people? And if you don't have those people, that's okay. Well, who are the people that you would want to have in your life? Who are the people that you listen to and you're consuming their content? Are those your motivators, right? But let's have levels of networks where we can tap into on a local level, on an international level, right? Like for me, I say shout out to Tony Robbins, shout out to Gary Vaynerchuk. These are people that greatly motivate me. Sarah Jakes Roberts, Stephen Furtick, Joyce Meyer. Like there's so many people that motivate me as a content creator and as a person who's consuming this information so that I can, again, tailor my message. I can focus in on my messaging to women of women empowerment, being fearless, thinking outside of the box, and using tools and resources to level up in your life, to level up in your career, to level up in your business, right? So who are these influencers and the people in your network that's helping to make you a better message storyteller and content creator yourself, right? So just to recap so that we're fully clear and there's no confusion, we have what? We have purpose, we have clarity, we have strategy, thinking about the platform of choice, also thinking about the influencers. what are the content that you're consuming and how it's affecting the message you share with the world. And then, of course, networking. All right. So you are listening to Our Voices. My name is Natasha Nurse, and I'm the owner and co-founder of Dressing Roommate, co-host of Woke and Free, and the lifestyle editor of Plus Model magazine. Next on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC.
Hi, I'm Danica Patrick and proud aunt. Watching my nieces grow, play, and learn is amazing. But not every child gets to be carefree. 1 in 6 kids in the U.S. are hungry. 1 in 6. That little girl sitting alone at the playground, she can't play like the other kids. She doesn't have the energy because she's hungry. School lunch will be her only meal today. It breaks my heart that this is the reality in our country, but it's something that Feeding America is working to change. Each year, the Feeding America network of food banks rescues billions of pounds of good food that would have gone to waste. This food is then provided to families and children in need. Being a kid should be about using your imagination, learning, and having fun. These children shouldn't have to miss out on simply being a kid because they're hungry. To find out how you can help end childhood hunger in your community, visit feedingamerica.org.
Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to Our Voices on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. My name is Natasha Nurse, and I'm the owner and co-founder of Dressing Roommate, co-host of Woke and Free, and the lifestyle editor of Plus Model magazine. And we are talking all about how to share your message with the world today. And I hope you're riveted, educated, and inspired to be taking notes and really thinking about how this conversation can help you in your actual daily lives, right? And so we talked a lot about clarity, purpose, strategy, platforms of choice, influencers, networking. Now, there's a couple of pieces left, I would say, to really help you hone in on how to share your message best with the world. Next, I would say what's important, and this piece is a little bit tricky, guys. It's trial and error. What do I mean by that? So I like to also say that most of us, if not none of us, are Yoda. We're not green. We're not floating in the sky. We don't know everything, and we don't speak backwards. And that's okay, right? I think some of the joy and the anxiousness that comes with life is that we have to try things and we learn. Like I like to say to people that there is no such thing as failure. There is no such thing as a mistake. There are just lessons, right? And there are some lessons that we like more than others. And a big part of sharing your message with the world, being an entrepreneur, going out and embarking on a career, is that you've got to try things, right? As we're younger, I think it's not as severe of an idea, but I think as we get older, and again, we're dealing with those expectations and these kind of limiting beliefs that like, oh, if I try something and it doesn't work, what will the world say? Well, guess what? You know who the number one voice is that's important, that needs to be important to you? It's you. Right? So maybe you go out there and you try something and it doesn't work out. Whew, it's okay. It's a moment. It's a teachable lesson. Take the moment and learn from what went, quote unquote, left, right? But ultimately, it's a lesson that you can learn from and move forward with. So I would say a lot that goes into sharing your message with the world is you're going to experiment. You're going to experiment with platforms. You're going to experiment with different speaking engagements, with different blogs, with different websites, with different news outlets. You're going to try things, and some things will hit and succeed more, and others might, fall a little bit flat. But the point is that you try and you learn and then you adjust. So trial and error, guys. Next, opportunities to pivot. So this is really important. And for all of the entrepreneurs listening and tuning in right now, right? So much of business, it requires fluidity, and that you really are able to see what your business is now, but what also it needs to be in 6 months, in 12 months, in 18 months, right? And that you have to have a sense of fluidity to move and adjust and to pivot, just as people do if you're not an entrepreneur and you're in your career, right? You're not going to necessarily do the same thing forever. There are points in your career where you might change your job title, your company, your position, where you live, right? There are things that are going on, moving pieces. So we have to look at opportunities around us and see where you can take advantage to move, to pivot, to adjust. And that kind of lies in with the trial and error, because sometimes you'll make decisions where you don't know what the outcome is, right? Because you're not Yoda, and that's okay. But you'll see how they land and how you like that lesson or not. And then next, I would say never forgetting what is next, right? That we sometimes we forget that our life, even though it feels like it can be very long, it's really just a minute, right? A blink in an eye. So really, when we start something and we're sharing this message, what do we want to happen from the message? And again, that ties back to what? To strategy, right? So for instance, if you are an advocate of sharing about domestic violence awareness, right? And you're really trying to get the world to take note at how much tragedy and degradation and harm is happening to women, to men, to the trans community, to so many different people, right? What is that message going to be like today? But then what's next with that message? Are you maybe going to consider turning that into a play, into a book, into a podcast, onto a radio program, right? Like thinking about your message and how you're delivering it, and then what's next for the message, right? What's the message 2.0, 3.0? So always thinking about what's next and not getting too stuck in the idea of I do this, but this can turn into so many other things, right? So what is that for you? So let's recap everything. We had purpose, we had clarity, strategy, platforms of choice, influencers and how they're affecting you and your message. We have networking, trial and error, opportunities to pivot, and then lastly, what is next? So I hope that that's been super, super clear. And really, I would say the next thing then leads us to talking about mindset. And why is mindset important? I think mindset's important because whatever you view your life as in your mind, guess what, guys? That's what it is in reality. So when we see obstacles and challenges in our mind, then we live that reality. So that's why it's really important to kind of have this approach to whenever we're tackling things, good, bad, indifferent, that we have the proper mindset for it, because it really can help dictate the outcome that we're dealing with in our life. So for me, I will share a little bit about the mindset that I try to focus on for how I'm sharing my message. So if my goal is to empower women to be fearless, to empower women to be innovative, to think outside the box, and to also be hungry and determined and tenacious to make things happen, to get stuff done, then what do you think my mindset's going to be? Exactly that, right? I could never create content around something that is not something that I believe in, nor is it something that I wouldn't be applying in my own life. So let's break that out a little bit, but in a moment. You are listening to Our Voices on the Voice of Nassau Community College 90.3 WHPC. My name is Natasha Nurse, and I'm the owner and co-founder of Dressing Roommate, co-host of Woke and Free, and the lifestyle editor of Plus Model magazine. Mindset, mindset, mindset. All right, so a couple of things to think about. When it comes to embarking on new things, changing a situation that you don't like, and or dealing with the unknown, couple of factors to think about as you are sharing your message with the world. First, how are you letting fear affect your message and what you are trying to do in this world? Meaning, if you say are not necessarily an extrovert, maybe you're an introvert, how much of you are you allowing to not move forward with sharing your message because of fear or because of your personality or because of things that you are worried that the world will not accept, right? So that's something that you have to conquer, and everyone has a different, I would say, hang up in their mind when it comes to what they can and can't do. So fear, your internal hang ups, also thinking. When it comes to mindset, I would say a big part of maintaining a healthy and strong mindset for what you need to do is going to come down to what, guys? It's going to come down to daily activities, right? If you want to be empowered, then you have to empower yourself every single day. Feeling good and feeling empowered is not something we do for Tuesdays and Thursdays, but it's something that you have to engage in every single day. So what are you doing to make sure that that actually happens? And I call that kind of a daily success regimen. And you would be surprised kind of what people need to do and what they choose to do. I can give you my little tips of advice. I'm a big reader, so I like to read affirmations. I also like to tune into some, spiritual motivation. I also like to dance. I also like to journal. So those are things that I try to incorporate on a daily basis. Why? Because it's going to uplift my spirit. It's also going to make me determined to get what I set out to do. Also, I would say having a to-do list, having a daily to-do list, having weekly to-do list, monthly, get that strategy in place. And guess what we have to do with that? We also have to have deadlines, guys. We don't have forever in a day to do something. We have specifically some things that are time sensitive. So making sure that you feel successful, you'll feel empowered, you'll feel ready for what you need to do and what you need to conquer if you know what those things are, when they're due, and your plan of attack for how to get them done, right? And then also, I think another thing with mindset to think about is foundationally of what you're doing, right? I think with social media and how much people are sharing and liking and commenting, that we sometimes get a little caught up with the idea of, I'm doing things for the gram, for Instagram. I'm posting things, but ultimately, are you doing things to post things on social media, or are you doing things because it's furthering your point, furthering your strategy, right? Social media is a phenomenal tool, but it's a tool that has to be utilized in the right way for you to get your message out. But we're not doing things literally just for Facebook or Instagram or Twitter. We're doing our thing, and then we are exemplifying and amplifying, rather, that message through social media, through interviews, through different outlets that we share it with, right? And so understanding where everything fits in and the place that it holds, but ultimately staying very grounded. And that also helps with having that mindset of success that we're looking for. And then also, I would say the last thing with mindset to keep in mind, guys, is really going to come down to, what do you want, right? You either want to accomplish something or you don't. You either want to have your message heard or you don't. So you have to be willing to be committed to what you set out to, because I think that if you falter, then that becomes very easy for the people that are tuning into you to recognize and acknowledge that you're not really into it. So you have to be into you. You've got to be into your message. You've got to be passionate and dedicated to that message, and most importantly, consistent with the message that you're putting out. And again, remember, I said earlier, the message might change. It might, kind of grow and blossom into something bigger, something more fuller. That's fine. But ultimately, are you staying true to the message that you set out to share with this world? So that was a lot, and I hope you got everything. And if you didn't, totally listen to this again and again as much as you like. But I think next, what I would love to do, since the whole subject today is to kind of share our message with the world. Every time I have an interview, if you guys have listened before, you've heard that I've asked my guests these rapid fire questions, and I would love to share just a couple of my answers to rapid fire questions, so you know not only my message but a little bit more about me. So, number one thing on my bucket list, probably to travel once or three times a year, I would say, to somewhere exotic, somewhere warm, and somewhere with very little bugs. Next, favorite place in the world would probably be my home. And then lastly, with something no one knows about me, I guess probably I as much as I'm a social person, I also enjoy just like being very quiet and sitting down and just reading a book and just being still with me. So I don't think everyone knows that. People know a lot because I share my message a lot. But, with that, I hope that you found today's program to be both informative and inspiring. Again, my name is Natasha Nurse. I'm the proud host of Our Voices here on 90.3 WHPC. Our show's creative director is Rudy J. Breedy. Visit nccradio.org. That's www.nccradio.org for more information. This will be available as a podcast on iTunes, Android Podcasts, and Spreaker. Our Voices is powered by the Nassau Community College Foundation on the voice of Nassau Community College 90.3 WHPC.